Okay, in the last video we saw document string. You might be thinking, what is power of this function if it is doing some static task? Well, in this video I'm going to tell you that the function the coding or the behavior of the function can be dynamic based on the arguments, based on some properties that you will be defining at the call time. For example, the function has, in almost all programming languages, the most interesting functions are the functions that receives an argument, and an argument is just considered an argument just as a variable, and performs its task according to that argument. Just take a simple example. Let's say rather than having a function print success, we have a function print message, and it prints whatever message it receives. And at the call time, for example, we call this function like so print message, and let's say we call this as let's say success. Let's say now success will be printed. Next time we call the function and we give another argument, maybe in a string, let's say 74 errors, let's say, that will be printed, or anything. I mean, anything that you supply will be printed. Wow, isn't that great? I mean, one function, and you might be thinking, the plain print function does that. What's the power of this? Well, I'm just telling you, the function does not only contain one line. I mean, it can be a whole task depending upon this input argument, and the whole task will perform dynamically based on what input argument you are supplying there. You are noticing one thing that I just forgot. What is that thing? I defined this function. I guess everything is fine. I've just missed something. Oh, document string. I should have written document string. Although document string is not essential, if you do not write document string, it's perfectly okay. The function will run, but it's a good practice. It's a good habit to always write a document string. Okay, let's see the power of input arguments by, again, going to our good friend Jupyter Notebook. Okay, so let's see. Let's say we define a function, define print message, let's say, and it receives an argument message. And this argument is just a variable. It's just a variable. And let's say we say, okay, print message. Or further, let's say we say if is instance message string. If this is string, then simply print it. If this is not a string, then just say okay, print your input argument is not a string, and then you say okay, here is what you have supplied, and then you say okay, whatever you have supplied, just see okay message, and that's it. That's a function. We might have written a document string for it. The function prints the message supplied by the user, or prints that message is not in the form of string. Wow. Don't worry, we have to see the strings in detail. We will see the print function in detail as well, because this print has a lot to do with strings. So just for now, I mean, that's our function, print message. let's say if the message is of string type, this string does not, this should be simply str, this should not be that, is instance take like this. Your input argument is not a string, here is what you have supplied. Here is what you have, so here we can say here is the type of what you have supplied, and then we can just print the type, and type of MSG. So the goal here is to just write a function that prints a message if that message is in plain string form. If it is not a string, then it prints that okay, the whatever you have sent is not a string, it is not a proper message in string form. Let's say this print message function receives a string, let's say that's our logic or something. So let's run this. First of all, let's see what it does. Help print message. So the function prints the message supplied by the user. We can access the same help by question mark if we want, and it gives us the document string. If however we want the implementation as well, then we write a double quote and the implementation is also available. Wow, great. Python is really great. Okay, let's call this function. Yeah, let's call this function. Print message and whatever you want to print. Let's say this is the message. This is the message. Let's say you want to print this, and this is the message that's printed. Okay, now let's say you call this function again sometime and you supply 23, and it will say your input argument is not a string. Here is the type of what you have supplied. It's an integer type, right? You can call this function in the following way. Let's say you define a variable y, and the variable y contains hello there. Let's say that's your and then you call the this function on y, and it will print hello there because y is also a string. Great. So that's how you can pass different arguments and instruct the function how should it behave without actually writing the whole logic of the task again and again. You have written all the logic once. Actually the logic starts from here. That's what the task is to. That's what the task you want to perform, and you need not write this again and again whenever you need this kind of stuff. You just call that function, exploit arguments, and it will behave accordingly you want. Great. So you might be thinking that a function only receives one argument. Maybe we want to supply more than one arguments, maybe two arguments, maybe three, maybe four, maybe five, and maybe we want to supply several arguments, and we want to do some task based on the values of those arguments or those variables. So in the next video, I'm going to show you multiple arguments. Okay, hope to see you in the next video.